So definitely locate your Q&A icon and start submitting any questions that you might have for this week while I run down through these few general updates. Number one, last week's communication will go out this evening. I do have that drafted and that will go out. It does have the complete list of issues that were resolved last week and on Friday, which I'll quickly run through with this group in just a moment. And it also has some information about this meeting series. Today is the last day for this meeting series, and this coming Friday is the last day for our weekly recurring provider meetings. So we have decided to combine those meetings into one meeting that will occur every other week. So I'll give you some of those details as well in the registration link. Actually, I can pop that into the chat right now for you guys. And it will also be included in today's communication that will go out as well. So Friday, with the deploy on Friday, we were able to resolve an issue for the provider authorization role. Apparently there was some challenges with individuals with the provider authorizations role not being able to view all of the person records for persons that were assigned to their organization. That should be resolved as of Friday. There was also a couple of issues related to the comprehensive assessment and the skills and abilities QIDP signatures, and those have both been resolved. One was related to being able to meet the completion requirements for that signature, and the other was related to the actual users who complete that signature, resource coordinators and their supervisors, not being able to edit those when the plan was in under review status. But both of those issues have been resolved as of Friday, so hopefully there'll be no more challenges there with the comprehensive assessment. There was also an issue that was tracked related to the PCP agenda attachments not being displayed in the form. That has been resolved. So those users that have access to the PCP form and the attachments on the PCP form should now be able to see the PCP agenda attachments. And the BI care coordinator and supervisors were not seeing their actively assigned caseloads, but as of Friday, those should now be populating on your user dashboard for those roles as well. So a few items resolved there. In addition to the items that were resolved with the deploy, we did notify through the Microsoft Teams channels last week and at Friday's weekly provider meeting that we have been able to resolve the issues and turn back on some of the notifications that had been suspended in the system while we were looking to resolve that. So we did reinstate 6 of the notifications last week. Those include the when there's an approval of a main care section 18, 21, or 29 prior authorization service line, that is now triggering to users with the provider authorization role. We also reinstated the 5 notifications around the service implementation plans. So users with the PCP data entry role will now receive invitations or notification when you're invited to provide a service implementation plan, notification when your service implementation plan was not selected by the person to let you know that you are not selected as the provider. And also, if you were selected, you will receive a notification letting you know that you were selected by the individual and that you have been assigned to that person record. You will also receive a notification if your service implementation plan has been opened for revisions by the assigned case manager or care coordinator. And you will also receive a notification if your service implementation plan has been auto-closed by the system because the service was removed from the person-centered plan during the person-centered planning process and or a revision to the PCP. So again, as a PCP data entry role user, you should now be receiving only those relevant notifications. So if you believe that you've received a notification that you should not have received, then please do reach out to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov with the person ID and what the notification was related to and why you believe you shouldn't have received it. We did get a couple of reports on Friday during the weekly provider call of individuals who thought that they may have received a notification that they shouldn't have. We are following up on those. We have looked into a couple of them, and what we have found is that they truly did trigger appropriately, but there may have been an assignment that was not ended, that was expected to be ended or something along those lines. So we do believe that they are working correctly, but again, if you hear from somebody or you yourself feel like you've received a notification that you should, please do send that to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we will research that further to ensure that they are triggering appropriately. The other thing to keep in mind as a PCP data entry user, a reminder that your service implementation plan notifications likely won't take you anywhere. They're more informational unless you're already assigned as a provider to that user record. Then they will navigate you appropriately to your service implementation plan form. But if you're a new provider, not yet assigned to the person, they won't take you anywhere. You should still rely on your service implementation plan report if you're not a user. And assigned provider, and also same for the prior authorization notification for all provider authorization users. That notification is purely informational. It's not going to take you anywhere because you don't have access to the prior authorization form in Evergreen. So you definitely still need to rely on that PA utilization report. So again, if you are actively assigned to the person record, the SIP notifications will navigate you into that specific SIP form. But if you're not actively assigned, you will need to still fill those out on paper and submit those back to the community case manager. So before I jump over to the Q&A, I do see we have a couple questions in Q&A. Please, again, feel free to start entering your questions in there, and we'll get to those just as soon as possible. In case you don't participate in the weekly provider call and you did not get this information on Friday, again, it will go out in today's communication as well, but I just wanted to share it here first. We have decided to combine the 2 weekly recurring meetings, and they will start happening every 2 weeks now after a production deploy. So we're meeting this week in the 2 separate meetings, but the next meeting will not be until the week of June 17th. And that single meeting will now be held on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. So it will be open to all Evergreen users, and you can register per the link that I put in the chat here, or again, I'll put the link in tonight's emailed communication as well. You only need to register once in order to participate in every single one of the meetings on the series. The series does go through July 30th. That will be the last meeting. Although, again, as we get closer to July 30th, if we feel like there are still a volume of issues that we want to be able to be communicating with you about, we may decide to extend that series. But for right now, we've scheduled it through July 30th because we do believe that the bulk of the issues will be remediated by that point. And so we should be in a much more stable situation that doesn't require recurring meetings. The other item that I do want to update you on is it will not be in today's emailed communication, but hopefully this Friday when I send out this week's weekly communication, we are still doing the final testing for the new issue submission form. And that form will be sort of a single point of entry, a single location where all Evergreen users can go and submit their question based on a category. And then that form will route that question to the appropriate staff at ODES to respond to that question. So we are still working on testing that this week, but we hope to get the testing wrapped up this week and get that rolled out as well by the end of this week. So more to come, and that an update on that should be included in this week's communication that will be planned to go out on Friday. So I think that is all of the general updates that I wanted to give. So I'm gonna pop over here to the Q&A because I do see we have a few questions in here. The first question is there a way for a provider organization to receive the comprehensive assessment so we can add it to our records to satisfy the requirement for the psychosocial assessment? Great question, John. I was not aware that there was a requirement for providers to have a copy of the psychosocial assessment. So I'll certainly take that back to our business team and ask about that. But the comprehensive assessment is not shared with providers because it is a tool for the community case management agencies and the BI care coordination agencies to capture details that would describe needs that will flow into the person-centered plan. So the needs and strengths and barriers all flow into the person-centered plan, and that's part of the final document that is shared with providers. So it was not my understanding that there would be any need for providers to have a copy of the comprehensive assessment, which is why that wasn't made available to all of you. And yeah, it looks like Emily's asking if you could send us a location where you believe that requirement exists, because we're certainly not aware of that. And the next question is, can you provide information about missing active plans? So I'm not aware of any plans missing from the system, Melinda. I am aware that there are several scenarios where a person's record may not show any of the person-centered plans as active. I did mention that as well on last week's call on Monday. Nancy and Udaya and I are still working on the documentation for that. I had hoped to include it with today's communication, but we're still working on that, so it won't go out until this Friday. But there are a few legitimate scenarios in which a person's record may have no active person-centered plan. And there are ways to get those legitimate scenarios resolved so that you do have an active plan that you can revise from. There is one scenario in which all of your plans, all of that person's plans may have migrated from EIS in a completed state, and they are not marked as active appropriately because the effective end date is in the past. But that does leave you in a situation where there is no plan that you can revise from, and there will be no plan that you can revise from. In that case, the only solution is to create a new initial PCP. But that is a rare scenario. So it's likely that one of the other scenarios exists for you. So in the meantime, until we can get that documentation out, that informational documentation out at the end of this week, please, if you have any concern about a particular person record, please send an email to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov with the person ID and a description of the fact that you don't have any active PCPs and you're wondering how to remedy that. And we'll have somebody on my team, Nancy or Udaya or somebody, to assist in reviewing that emailed question, and we'll respond back with a suggestion or recommendation for how to get one of your plans to show up as active. Yeah, Lisa. So we are actually looking into, Lisa is asking about an update on having the ability to have more than one PCP open in Evergreen at a time. We are actively researching that right now. I think there's been misunderstanding on the requirements there. So trying to understand what requirement was submitted to FEI and what was implemented on that. So we are still researching that, but we will try to come to a resolution on whether or not you can have more than one plan open or in an in-progress status at any given time. So I'll hopefully be able to provide some more information on that at our meeting on June 18th. And if we get any information about it sooner than that, we can certainly still message out in the Microsoft Teams channel to give you guys an update on that. This question is asking if we can review the procedure again on how to delete duplicated phone numbers and addresses. Yeah, I definitely can, Troy. When I demonstrated that at the last meeting, I actually received a report that that was broken. That functionality was broken for the user community case managers and individuals who were supposed to have that access to be able to update the note in that portion of the user's record. But I certainly can show it again really quickly. But I think there may be an outstanding issue that we have not yet resolved that may be preventing you from actually updating those records to indicate that you'd like them deleted. Let me try to share my screen though really quick and show you. So in the person's record, under either addresses, phones, or contacts, those are the three areas that we're looking to help you get cleaned up. You would have the ability, to go in here if your role permits you to edit an address, for example, and update the note on that. So you'd be able to, click on this, and in the note portion of this, you'd be able to type something like this, delete, or so just make sure that you put the word delete in the note somewhere. You can delete out the whole note if you want, or you can just add the word delete, or however you want to handle it. But as long as that word delete is in there, and ideally at the beginning of the note field, and then you would hit save. And then what my team was going to do is we were going to generate a report that we would be able to run that would show us all the addresses, all the phone numbers, all the person contacts that had the word delete in the note. And then we would go in and manually delete them, because we would have the ability through the trash can icon where you would not have that ability. But it sounded like when I shared this information a couple weeks ago that maybe the user roles that I was expecting to have editability weren't able to update that note. So we tracked an issue on that, and we're following up on that. But if you do have the ability to edit these notes under addresses, phone numbers, and contacts, you can definitely start marking those this way. And we will start cleaning those up as soon as we start seeing any of them. Um, let me go back here. Yes, we certainly can add that link if that disappeared for you in the chat. I can actually add it here, Jennifer, for you. Oops. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. There you go. And then, okay, so Jennifer, you're indicating that you have a plan that disappeared. The PCP was almost ready to be sent for state review, and when you went back in, it was gone. Interesting. If you could send an email to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov with the person record and the logged in user that had started the plan. And also if it was revised from one of the plans that exists, or if it was a brand new initial one that they started. Okay. Yeah, if you could send us those details, we'll definitely look into that further. That's the first time I've ever heard of that happening, so I'm not sure what may have occurred there, but we'll certainly look into it further for you. Yeah, so Melinda's saying that their new initial plans that's happening for her. So yeah, Melinda, same thing. If you have an example of a plan that has disappeared, or become inactive, definitely send those details to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we will definitely research that further for you. Would need the person ID, and again, just a description of what occurred, since you won't have a PCP form ID to share with us. Okay, so, and Jennifer, you're saying that somebody else had one where this certain pages went blank, and you're certain that they hit save or save and continue. Yeah, that I'm worried that sometimes, like if it's just a page or something like that, or a couple of pages, that they're not hitting save or save and continue, and they're just using the arrow key. So if they're on a page of the PCP and they type into one of the fields and then they don't hit save or save and continue, but they use the page arrow, it will not save what they had and they will lose that work. So it is critical that they hit save or save and continue as they move through the PCP. I would strongly encourage them to never use just the arrow keys in the PCP. Even if they didn't type anything on that screen, it's fine to hit save or save and continue, because it's not, it's going to save what's on the page. So even if they didn't make edits, it's safer to use save and continue than to use the arrows. I think we've gotten a couple of other reports where that has happened, but it is more concerning for me with the report of the whole PCP disappearing, because again, I don't know how that could even happen. So that one definitely concerns me, but the report of maybe a page disappearing is likely user error. But if they can give some good examples, time that they did it, what PCP form it was, that kind of thing, we can definitely do some more research to see if we see a commit to the database that's not displaying it, and like what fields they added data into that, and especially if they know what they typed in there, that would be awesome. We can definitely look into them further, just to make sure that there's not something systemically going on there. Jody indicates that their agency has several individuals that still have service authorizations that say in progress. We've completed the comprehensive assessment, the PCP is done, and some will not allow us to complete the plans due to the signature page. But those that, yes, we are still aware of the signature issues. We are still working the signature issues. I think the guidance has been that if everything is there, the CompassS, the PCP, and you've been able to capture signatures and attach them to the PCP, even though you can't set the plan to complete, I think the guidance has been to message the HCBS waiver email address, and they'll still review that PCP and will manually get PAs generated if the current plan effective end date is like now or in the past or something like that, so that the person can continue to have their prior authorizations. If the plan effective date is not set to expire for a bit longer, we likely are just waiting for the resolution to the signature issue so that the system can auto-generate those PAs. But I don't know if Emily or anybody else on that team wants to chime in with any additional information around that.
That's perfect, Leslie.
Excellent, thank you. So for the contacts, phone number, and addresses that are to be deleted, should the CM end date it as well? Yeah, for sure. If the phone number or the address or even the contact is no longer valid, definitely adding an end date and the word delete is a really good idea, because if the end date gets added, it's considered inactive and then it won't be pulled in or displayed on certain forms that might be displaying that information. And also it will help it drop down to the bottom of the list of contacts, phones, and addresses. Those should be sorted with active ones at the top. So if it has an end date that's, you know, in the past, it will be considered inactive and it will drop down in the order. So that's definitely a good recommendation, Leslie. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes those PCP things are definitely user error, and especially if it's like a page that's seemingly not saving, it may be because they were on a page and didn't hit save or save and continue. Megan is saying she saw an error today under the services and support section. There was a red exclamation point on the description of scope, but when she clicked into the service box, it was all there. Huh. Megan, I don't know if that was a waiver service or a self-directed service. I do know that we updated one service type to self-directed. Because we were testing this description of scope. So it may be, and I don't remember what service that was either, but it may be related to that. But definitely if you could send an email to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov with the example of the PCP, the person ID, the PCP form ID, and which service was showing that red exclamation, I would like to look into that a little bit further and see what might have happened there. Lisa saying that her agency had the same issue with a plan now not even showing up. It's not the pages in the plan losing information. The actual entire screen is just white with no information. Oh, interesting. So you can see the PCP. It sounds like you, Lisa, can see the PCP form ID like in your list page, but when you try to open that PCP, there's no content inside of it. It's just a blank white page. I don't know if that's the same experience that Melinda and Jennifer were reporting, or if yours is a little bit different flavor. So I definitely had been aware of some PCPs showing a blank white screen, and our vendor FEI had resolved that at one point shortly after the deploy, I think sometime in March. And then I was aware that that had cropped up again for a little bit different reason. And so a second issue was tracked related to that. I believe that one was resolved as well, but please don't quote me on that. That might still be an outstanding issue that I'm not remembering right offhand. But if you could also send that example to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, we'll take a peek at that as well. And I'll also check to see if there's still an open issue around some, like, I think it was like migrated plans, some EIS migrated plans where that had started happening. But we'll definitely look into that. And you said that one of your CCMs had been working on a new plan created in Evergreen. And when she went into it today, when she clicked open the plan, the screen was white, no text, no boxes, etc. Weird. Okay. I'm wondering if some sort of a permission changed too. I'll have the team look into that. But yeah, if you could send those examples to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, that would be fabulous. Megan's asking whether you should notify DHHS of the signature issues on PCPs that have had effective dates that have passed that need manual authorizations. I think, again, if you have a PCP where you're unable to set it to complete, but you have captured signatures and you've attached those in a paper document, an uploaded attached document, and the effective date of the previously active plan is in the past, then definitely email HCBS waiver email address, and we'll make sure that the manual authorizations have been entered for that plan. But I think that they are definitely those that they're aware of this situation. I think they're definitely working to prioritize the PAs for those. Okay, so it was self-directed services, Megan. Yeah, interesting. Definitely still send me that example where you saw that exclamation mark, because I want to check the services on the back end. I instructed the team to not update all of the self-directed services until we were able to figure out whether or not those should be updated in the system to show up only when you select self-directed as a service type. So it may be related to the one or ones that we did update. So we'll definitely look into that a little bit further. And yes, definitely, Megan. I have not sent out today's email communication, so I can definitely add a reminder in there about using the navigation, not using the navigation arrows, and making sure you use save and continue. That is, you're absolutely right. That is a great reminder for folks. So I'll get that added to the communication before I send it out today. Get a note for myself so I don't forget. Fantastic. Great questions today. Appreciate the additional information on some of those PCP oddities that you guys are seeing. Definitely we'll keep our eyes open for the additional details that you guys send through the evergreen.dhhs email box, and we'll look into that further and see if there's something strange going on there. Maybe a permission got changed by accident or something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll certainly try to diagnose what's going on and get back to you with more information just as soon as possible on that. And it doesn't look like I have any more questions in the Q&A, so I certainly want to be respectful of everyone's time. I definitely appreciate your continued participation in these meetings, and for sure get registered for the new series. And again, I won't plan to see you again unless you participate on this Friday's weekly call, but I won't plan to see you again until Tuesday, June 18th at 8 a.m. at the new meeting series, the new recurring meeting series. But you should see a communication tonight and then another one again at the end of the week for this week with some additional information around these items that we've just been discussing. And everybody have a fantastic week and enjoy the sunshine while it's here.